Hello, Rama Pupodu. Hope all are in good health, feeling great, wonderful, having a happy and peaceful life. Now let's go to the next devotee, Professor G.V. Subramania. G.V. Subramania, the principal of a college, was a remarkable person. Spiritual seekers are greatly indebted to him because he extracted from Bhagavan an assurance that he will protect and emancipate all of us. Bhagavan dropped his body on the 14th of April 1950. Around April 7th or 8th, Professor Subramania and Sub Registrar Narayana Iyer went to see Bhagavan. They wept inconsolably. Bhagavan asked Subramania, "What do you want?" Subramania replied, "Abhayam Ivalla," meaning, "Give me protection." Bhagavan looked at him and said, "Ichanu," meaning, "It is given." By this he meant not only protection but also liberation. Sub-Registrar Narayana Iyer, who was also weeping, questioned Bhagavan, "Is it only for Subramania?" Bhagavan turned to him and replied, "For everyone." In 1960, only 2 or 3 visitors used to come to Ramana Ashram, and they were not even aware of Bhagavan's teachings. Today, Bhagavan's message is spreading everywhere. It is not just the teaching as a philosophy that is spreading, but the essence of the truth about oneself. Everyone is waking up to this, and this is the only Abhayam, the protection and the liberation that Bhagavan promised. Bhagavan once said that every being has to eventually come to Arunachala, not to the physical Arunachala, but to the Arunachala within. Everyone has to awaken to the teaching of I am. For this assurance of Abhayam from Bhagavan, we owe G.V. Subramania. Subramania came to Bhagavan in 1930 in a state of grief. He was overwhelmed by sorrow at the loss of his 2-year-old son and was wandering around India. On one of these wanderings, someone advised him to go to Ramana Maharishi. Another person coincidentally gave him Bhagavan's Upadesa Saram in Telugu around the same time. His immediate response was that if a Tamilian could write such great spiritual poetry in Telugu, then he must be a spiritual giant. So he visited the Maharishi, still weighed down by great sorrow. Bhagavan's very first look was filled with such grace that it made his sorrow vanish. According to Subramania, the pole star of my life is, of course, my Sadguru, Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi. At a time of distress, I was drawn to him, and the very first darshan plunged me into the ocean of peace and bliss. Ever since, he has been the light of my life. He is my mother. Bhagavan is my father. Bhagavan is my guru. Bhagavan is my own. Bhagavan is my all, and in him my little self and all its moorings were consummated and sublimated. In a word, he is the embodiment of grace. At every step, even with the least incidents of my life, I have come to feel with a growing consciousness the guiding hand of that divine grace that is named as Sri Ramana. However, even after this look, Subramania was besieged by a sincere doubt. He questioned Bhagavan. The Bhagavad Gita says that mortals cast off their own bodies and acquire new bodies, just as one casts off old clothes and wears new clothes. How does this apply to the death of mere infants, whose bodies are fresh and new? Bhagavan looked at him with compassion and replied, "How do you know that the body of the dead child was not worn out? It may not be apparent, but unless it is worn out, it will not die." That is the spiritual law. Straight away, Subramania's sorrow and misery disappeared. Subramania, a good conversationalist, was also a scholar of Sanskrit, Telugu, and English. He started translating Bhagavan's work into English. His translation of the Ramana Gita is appreciated even today. Earlier, he had met a Mahatma who had initiated him into a mantra. He was chanting the mantra very diligently. After coming to Bhagavan and having his darshan, he couldn't continue with the mantra. He felt rather guilty and wondered whether he had done something wrong. He went to Bhagavan with his problem. Bhagavan, suddenly the mantra has stopped. I am afraid. Bhagavan responded. You have done a lot of japa using the mantra. The fruit of the mantra has brought you here. Why do you need to fear? At a much later date, he asked, what is the difference between japa repeated in the mind and meditation? Bhagavan replied, they are the same. In both, the mind is focused on one thing, either on the japa or on the self. Mantra, japa, dhyana, and vichara all are different names only. As long as they require some kind of effort, we give them these names. When the goal is realized, they go on effortlessly. What was formerly the means now becomes the goal. Sometime later, Subramanya had a different kind of a problem. He had been practicing breath control as taught by Swami Ramatirtha in his works. Subramanya continued the practice at a particular time every day. One day he suddenly felt a terrible sensation as though his head would crack and break into pieces. In spite of stopping the practice, the sensation kept recurring at the usual time of his practice. One night, when Bhagavan was alone, he approached him with his problem. Bhagavan said, laughing, what? Are you again seized by fear? These are the experiences that people have when they practice yoga without the immediate guidance of a guru. But you have come to me, so why should you fear? Then, in an undertone, Bhagavan added, next time you get that sensation, think of me and you will be all right. These words are to be inscribed in our hearts in gold. Whatever form of sadhana you are following, whenever you are in pain, think of the name of the Master. Subramanya personally told me that there was never a next time. Subramanya was also told very clearly by Bhagavan how seekers should offer their prayers. Should one pray for mundane help from the Guru or should one ask for spiritual emancipation alone? Subramanya had a daughter who was 2 or 3 years old. The child lived in the village and would often have fits. Once she became unconscious and it seemed as if she would die. Subramanya sent an express telegram to Bhagavan declaring, Bhagavan, my child Indra is suffering. Please help her. As advised, he also called for 2 Ayurveda doctors to come. At 7 that night, Subramanya's brother-in-law, who was staying in the next village, happened to bring sacred ash that he had received the previous year from Ramana Ashramam. Apply this on the forehead of the child, he said. The ash was applied, and to the wonder and delight of everybody, the child was declared cured by the 2 Ayurveda doctors who had also just arrived. The very next day, there was a letter from the ashram confirming the receipt of the telegram. Bhagavan saw your telegram at 7 in the night. Everything will be all right. To Subramanya, it was indeed a miracle. During the next holidays, which happened to be for Christmas, he visited Bhagavan. Like all intellectuals, he too faced the problem of accepting what had happened. Subramanya questioned Bhagavan, did you think you should save my child? Bhagavan clarified to him that even the thought of saving the child is a sankalpa, a desire, and a jnani has no desires whatsoever. The moment a jnani looks at anything, the divine force comes into action automatically. We only have to pray and hope that the master's glance falls on an object so that divine intervention takes place automatically. Think of Ramana, think of Arunachala, and at once divine intervention occurs. Every time Subramanya visited Ramana Ashramam, Bhagwan would wake him up at 2:30 in the morning and take him along with Sub-Registrar Narayana Iyer and Kalyana Sundaram Iyer to the kitchen. There they would prepare sambar or chutney. Bhagwan would do the actual cooking while these people assisted him. Whenever Subramanya saw Bhagavan perspiring because of the summer heat and the heat from the stove, he would pick up a fan to fan Bhagavan. Bhagavan, who never liked any special favors, would always say, "Stop." Once, Subramanya crept up behind Bhagavan when he was deeply involved in the cooking and fanned him. Bhagavan noticed it and said, "So, you want to do it stealthily? Well, even that you are not able to do properly. Come, let me show you." Bhagavan held Subramanya's hand and showed him how to use the fan correctly. Subramanya said, "It was a divine moment when Bhagavan touched me." They would then go to the next room to grind the chutney. Subramanya did not know how to move the pestle to grind the chutney. Once again, Bhagavan held Subramanya's hand to show him how, sending him into ecstasy. After the chutney was prepared, Bhagavan would taste it and also give it to the others to taste. If their hands were occupied otherwise, he would say, "Open your mouth." He would make a small ball of the food and pop it into their mouths. Subramanya commented, "I was in heaven when Bhagavan did this." Once I asked Subramanya, "What is so unique about Bhagavan?" Subramanya said, "One outcome of the originality of Bhagavan's self-realization was that his approach to the problems addressed to him was equally original because his death experience was also original. He did not imitate. He did not quote from books. All his answers and actions were absolutely original and unique. His answers to questions were never bookish. They were simple and direct. Like Jesus Christ, he spoke with authority. His words were the result of the first-hand knowledge and experience rather than bookish knowledge and hearsay. He went to the root of every question and simplified it. He did not use confusing terminology. When he spoke, he would cite only concrete illustrations along with his answers, making his meaning crystal clear. பாடல் 7. உனியே மாற்றி யோடா துலத்தின்மே உறுதியா இருப்பா யருணாச்சலா. என் மனம் உன்னை ஏமாற்றிவிட்டு ஓடி உழலாதபடி என் உளத்தில் மேல் உறுதியாக வீற்றிரு அருணாச்சலா. Meaning, without letting my mind deceive you and run around, sit firmly in my heart, Arunachala. பாடல் 8. ஊர் சுர புலம் விடா துணைக்கண் தடங்கிட உன்னழ கைகாட் தருணாசலா. பொருள்: ஊர் சுற்றும் மனம் இடைவிடாது உன்னை கண்டு அடங்கிட உன் பூரண அழகு ரூபத்தை காட்டு அருணாச்சலா. Meaning, to make my mind that runs around everywhere to continuously see you and subside, show your perfect beauty, Arunachala. பாடல் 9. எனை யளித்திப்போ தெனைக்கல வாவிடி லிதுவோ வான்மை யருணாச்சலா. பொருள்: என்னை என் அகங்கார தன்மையை அழித்து இப்போது என்னுடன் இணையாவிட்டால் இதுதான் ஆண்மையா அருணாச்சலா. Meaning, destroying my ego if you don't join me now, is this manliness, Arunachala? பாடல் 10. ஏன் இந்த உறக்க மெனைப்பிற ரிலுக்க விதுவுன கழல்கோ வர்ணாச்சலா? பொருள்: மற்றவர் என்னை இழுக்கும்போது ஏன் இந்த உறக்கம், இதுதான் உனக்கு அழகோ அருணாச்சலா? Meaning, when others are dragging me, why this slumber? Is this very nice of you, Arunachala? That's all, folks. Let's continue the next chapter. Thank you. Bye bye. Rama Rama Puppotu.